This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
This is your WGBW Daily News Roundup for the Talk of Green Bay, 97.9 FM and 1590 AM.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. From the very beginning, it was a tight race. Senator Tammy Baldwin has declared victory in her re-election bid. Savannah Tomei Olson covered the race all night.
And what a night it was. The Baldwin camp went into the evening very confident, but by 10 o'clock, the vibe had really changed. The campaign was holding a watch party at the Orpheum in Madison. At first, music blared during commercial breaks and people were dancing, but the crowd got quieter watching a big screen playing MSNBC. The music and dancing really stopped. One person told me it felt like this was supposed to be a party, but the party never actually started. Eric Hovde was ahead for hours, and the red tide really dampened the mood for Democratic supporters. The night grew more somber, and at midnight, Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez told everybody to go home. It'll be a long night.
Okay, folks, we've said this from the beginning that this race is going to be close. We are Wisconsin. This is what we are known for. But we are encouraged by what we see. Tammy is still in a strong position to win. It is going to be a long night, though. And we don't want to keep you here all night. So we are going to let you go home and get some sleep.
After absentee ballot totals from Milwaukee came out at about 4:30 this morning, Baldwin declared victory with more than 98% of the votes in across the state. Some parts of Racine and Oshkosh still outstanding. At that point, she had over 49%, while challenger Eric Hovde had closer to 48%. The Hovde campaign held a party at the Edgewater in Madison last night. Our Terry Barr was there. She says he briefly spoke to supporters, saying, quote, "Does our country want to go in a new direction? I think it does," end quote. Later, after 3 a.m., he said thank you to supporters and sent everybody home. For Civic Media News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson.
One of the most contentious and hard-fought elections this cycle has been the race for the 8th Congressional District. Trump-endorsed businessman Tony Weed, who has positioned himself as a political outsider, was the victor over Democrat Kristen Lyerly. Weed ran on a platform that leaned heavily on economics and inflation.
Tonight, the voters of District 8 sent a very clear message. They're ready to bring common sense back to Washington.
Weed told reporters that his first order of business in Washington will be the economy.
Well, the number one issue that I continue to hear is our economy. We need to get our economy back on track. Inflation we're seeing right now is at a rate we haven't seen for 40 years. And this current administration, unfortunately, is to blame for that. And I'll get to work on that. We have a reckless spending problem in our country, and I'm looking forward to using my business skills that I learned in our small business, taking those to Washington and making a difference.
Meanwhile, Democrat Kristen Lyerly said while this election is over, she will continue to fight for women's reproductive rights.
And no matter what, I am not done. There's so much more work that needs to be done. So I'm just going to keep doing the work because I need to. My patients, women in Wisconsin need me to. Families in Wisconsin need me to. So that won't change.
There were 2 elections on the ballot for the 8th Congressional District. One will fill the remaining months of the term vacated when Congressman Mike Gallagher resigned. The other is for the full term from January 2025 to January 2027. Tony Weed was the victor in both races. Wisconsin voters approved a constitutional amendment that will keep foreign nationals from voting in the state. Republicans across the country have been pushing constitutional amendments designed to prohibit non-citizens from voting in local elections. Currently, the amendment reads, every U.S. citizen who is 18 or older can vote. The amendment revises that language to read, only U.S. citizens can vote in elections held in Wisconsin. Voters in many parts of Wisconsin were deciding on more than who will represent them. With more, here's Civic Media's Jimmy Kuska.
All across Wisconsin, school referendum questions were on the ballot, with over 1/4 of districts asking to go over their local tax levies. Over 1/4 of districts asked a total of 138 questions for a total of over $4.2 billion to pay for operations and facilities. The majority of these ballot measures passed, highlighted by Madison passing 2 questions for a total of $607 million. For Civic Media News, I'm Jimmy Kuska.
I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
The Packers trade Preston Smith. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Preston Smith has been a reliable linebacker on the Packers defense since Matt LaFleur took over as the head coach, but the team traded Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 7th-round pick. The Steelers will also take over his contract, saving the Packers over $17 million next season. GM Brian Gutekunst met with the media.
Thanks to Preston Smith. 2019, that was we signed 4 guys, and for him to be, here still 5.5 years later, and he's done a lot of good things for us. I'm really appreciative. Played a lot of good football for us, won a lot of games, and I wish him nothing but the best moving forward.
NBA, the Bucks are back in Milwaukee tomorrow night to host the Utah Jazz. Both teams off to poor starts, each with a win-loss record of 1-6. The Badgers men's basketball team hosting Montana State tomorrow night. Wisconsin with an 85-61 win over Holy Cross. Forward Nolan Winters on all the new players on this year's roster.
That's just college basketball now. Everyone's got new pieces, and it takes time to learn from one another and learn how just chemistry, how one plays. But I think where we're at now, obviously like with JT, X, we're learning and, practicing every day, open gyms in the summer. That helped a lot. So I think this game was a step in the right direction for sure.
With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Some people cannot get enough of The Walking Dead, or its many spin-offs. The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon gave a sneak peek at Season 3 after Season 2 wrapped up Sunday night. Season 3 will keep Daryl in Europe along with Carol. The 2 zombie fighters will find themselves in Spain for the new season, but there is no word on exactly how they ended up there. Seasons 1 and 2 were shot in France. The twosomes' goal, according to The Hollywood Reporter, is to get back home to the U.S. and their fellow Walker Slayers. There is speculation that the recently released Juror No. 2 could be Clint Eastwood's last film. Critics and those in the Eastwood camp expressed disappointment the film was only released in 50 theaters last weekend, despite the consensus that the film is very compelling and received a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. At the very least, we have something good to stream very soon. Barbenheimer 2.0 is just around the corner, with films Gladiator 2 and Wicked kicking off the holiday box office season in a couple weeks. However, last weekend's box office did not impress. The movie Here, starring Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, and directed by Robert Zemeckis, landed with a thud on opening weekend. Here did not review particularly well, and audience approval is hovering at around 60%. The film whiffed big time with only a $5 million opening weekend, which landed it in 5th place overall. Repeating as box office champ following its opening weekend is Venom: The Last Dance. The 3rd and final chapter of DC's Venom franchise took in $26 million domestically. Rounding out the top 5 are The Wild Robot in 2nd place, Smile 2 at number 3, and Conclave at number 4. Another disappointment at the box office was Liam Neeson's new action film Absolution, which finished in 12th place, barely cracking $1 million. Martha Stewart might be dealing with a hangover due to her displeasure with her biopic Martha on Netflix. While promoting her new cookbook during an appearance on a game show similar to Family Feud, she took a shot at Ryan Reynolds. When asked which actors she would like to hang out with in real life, she listed George Clooney, her pal Snoop Dogg, and Brad Pitt, but made a point to say Ryan Reynolds is not funny in real life, adding that he is very serious. She also acknowledged her comments might not go over so well since the two are neighbors in real life. Despite the final season of Succession bringing Kieran Culkin his first Golden Globe Award, the actor has still not seen the series finale. In a recent appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Culkin said he missed it because he was in Poland filming a movie and then went right to a vacation with his family. The actor told Colbert he knows what happens, but just sort of missed his chance. If only there was a way he could still watch it. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It is going to be partly to mostly cloudy today with a high in the low to mid-50s this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy in the mid-30s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high back into the mid-50s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Right now, it's 48.
That's your WGBW Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at WGBW.FM. The national news cycle never stops. but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.